So we're going to be looking at heaven tonight. We're going to continue our series. Heaven is a real place that believers will spend an eternity in. And if we truly understood what it was, we'd have something not only to look forward to, but we would change how we live today. So let's dig into this topic tonight. First, again, let's just do a little bit more about me. I moved around to a bunch of different places in my life. First, I am from Worthington. I don't know how well that comes up. That's downtown Worthington. It's about 40 minutes from here, right? And then next, I went to college in Mankato, Minnesota. So that's about 2 hours from here. That's where Katie and I met. She said no like 10 times when I asked her out. Just telling on her a little bit. I wore her down. We moved to Johnson City, Tennessee for a while. That's about 17 hours from here. And actually, I looked this up. Google says that I could bike there in about 100 hours, so I don't know. Challenge accepted or something. And we just came from Pierre, South Dakota, about 4.5 miles from here. Now, that's places I've lived. Here's some of the places I've visited. Monterey, California. I went there to see my sister in the Air Force. The Statue of Liberty. Katie and I and the kids went out there for a vacation once. San Antonio, Texas. That's the river walk there. I went to see a different sister in the Air Force. And then Dublin, Ireland, for Katie's and my 10th anniversary. So those are awesome places, I think, all around the world to live. And there's wonders to see throughout the world and throughout time. In fact, has anyone heard of the 7 wonders of the world? Yeah? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this well. That one. You know what that one is? Pyramids. How about that one? Hanging Gardens of Babylon. You know, it's hard to see the picture, so I'll just try to say what they are. How about number 3 here? That's the statue of Zeus. Yeah. Number 4. I have to remind myself what number 4 is. The Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. Number 5 over here is the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Then we have the Colossus in Rhodes here. And then in number 7, we have the Lighthouse of Alexandria in Egypt. So those were world-renowned places one day in time. And here's the 7 modern wonders of the world. Some of those I recognize, some of those I don't. But no matter how awesome I think the place is that we could see or that we could live on, no matter what wonders they hold, they're not going to last. Eventually we'll get bored of them, we'll want to do something different, we'll want to do something better. Especially, I don't know, have you ever felt when you're like on vacation and you go somewhere, after about 2 weeks you're like, I'm ready for my own bed, I'm ready to be back home? Obadiah says no. For those of us who believe in Christ and trust in Him completely for salvation, and there's a place better than what we've ever been in, what we've ever seen, where we could ever live, and of course it's going to be heaven, because we're going to talk about that tonight. Heaven is infinitely better than everything. Now, it's not this boring white room with nothing to do. We're not going to just sit on clouds and play harps all the time, although that's kind of the popular conception, I think, in media for that they tell us that we're going to be doing. We're not just going to be floating around in a bright white light. See, heaven's going to be a big celebration where we get to be with Jesus forever, as in, the one who created everything. We get to spend eternity with Him. So where am I getting this from? Well, we're going to be looking at a couple passages tonight. So turn to Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel isn't a book that we usually spend time in a lot in the Bible. Ezekiel chapter 1, right after Lamentations. Does that help? Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel. Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos. Ezekiel. Chapter 1, we're going to start in verse 4. It says this: I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, An immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight, their feet were like those of a calf, and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, they had human hands, and all 4 of them had faces and wings. And the wings of one touched the wings of another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved. So this is actually a vision of heaven that came to the prophet called Ezekiel. See, it came at a time when Israel was just completely hopeless. They had been conquered, they had been captured, they had been sent away from their home, and they didn't know if they had any future. And so in the midst of this hopelessness, a vision comes to Ezekiel, and it's a vision of heaven. See, when they thought that they had nothing to live for, God wanted to show them that they did. When they thought that they had a hopeless situation that they were in, and that it was as good as it gets, God wanted them to know that there was something even better, okay, a place beyond anything they could dream of. So let's just look at some of the images in this text. First, the vision comes to Ezekiel as a windstorm from the north. An immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light, it says. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. Now, these living creatures were described later on in this chapter. I encourage you to look at it later, where they look something like this. They have 4 heads. One's an eagle, one's an ox, one's a lion, and one's a human. Now, when we look at these things, we may think, wow, that's pretty awesome. But that's just the warm-up act, okay? Look back at Ezekiel 1 at verses 25 to 28. Verses 25 to 28. It says, "Then there came a voice from above the vault over their heads as they stood with lowered wings. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli. And high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire. And that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day, so was the radiance around him. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. When I saw it, I fell face down, and I heard the voice of one speaking." So again, the things that we saw up to this point were nothing. Okay, they're the pre-show. They're the warm-up for something even bigger. Bigger than the windstorms, bigger than the flashing lightning, bigger than the glowing metal. More fantastic than the 4 creatures comes this throne of lapis lazuli. Okay, lapis lazuli is sometimes translated in your translations as sapphire. Okay, both are like this deep blue metamorphic rock. And this throne is made out of it. And on this throne sits a figure like that of a man. Now, who do you think would be sitting on this throne? Miriam. Jesus, or God, okay? He's in control of the windstorm. He's in control of the flashing lightning and the glowing metal. And he's the one who created the 4 creatures. God is on his throne. And he looked like glowing metal, full of fire. Brilliant light was all around him. Like the appearance of a rainbow in the clouds on a rainy day was the radiance around him. Essentially, God is literally clothed in rainbows. And what does Ezekiel do when he sees this magnificent vision? Yeah, he face plants, right? He falls face down. Every time that there is an encounter with God or an angel in the Bible, almost, I should say, every time, the human they are interacting with falls face down. It's pretty consistent throughout the Bible. It's because the wonders of the supernatural and the magnificence of God's holiness, it just completely humbles us. Ezekiel saw heaven. He saw these amazing creatures. He saw God come down on his throne, and he falls face down on the ground. And so Ezekiel saw a vision of heaven that looked, something. This is as close of an artist rendering as we're going to get this side of heaven. But it was absolutely awesome, right? It's amazing. It's great. It's fantastic. We could go on with the list of words that could describe what he was able to see. In fact, we'll probably run out of words to describe how awesome it is. And above everything, and in the middle of everything, and the focus of everything is God. It's his throne. See, in heaven we're going to see wonders that we'll never see before, and we'll see creations that we can't even imagine, and we're going to see colors that we've probably never seen before, and we're going